Hello viewers, let me quickly introduce myself before proceeding with the training videos for PMI-ACP. I am Vinayak Agarwal. I am a PMP, PMI-ACP and an ITIL certified IT professional with an experience of more than a decade now in the field of business analysis, project management and agile methodologies. In this session, that is module number 6, I will be cultivating you with the Agile Analysis and Design. A rapid briefing of the topics which I will be covering today for you are requirement management, stages in agile requirements, requirement gathering models. We will talk about focus groups and types of focus group along with few of the advantages and disadvantages. Group decision making, agile product roadmap, product vision, release planning, product backlog, sprint backlog, agile modeling, prototypes, wireframes, and finally we will end the session with personas.
Moving into the content side, on the very first slide today we have requirement management as the prime topic for you. So what exactly is the requirement management? Requirements management is the process of documenting, analyzing, tracing, prioritizing, and finally agreeing on requirements, and ultimately then leading to controlling the change, if any, and communicating to the relevant stakeholders. So what, like, need, and ultimately what plus y is equals to how you exactly do that particular thing or a requirement. But in Agile we talk about the acceptance from the dynamic. We accept the late change in requirements also are easily accepted in Agile world. That's why we don't have any change mechanism or a CCB, change control board in the Agile. We will accept the requirement and we keep on prioritizing them based on their final value, customer value. So requirement management, it is a continuous process throughout the project. You can't say that you have done with the requirements management. Definitely you can say, but at certain level. You can't say at the very beginning of the project that you have done with the requirement management, because the requirement might be or definitely will get changed in the dynamic world as in the today's environment. So a requirement is a capability to which a project outcome, which is a product or might be a service, should conform. If we talk about the stages in the agile requirements, so it's just a simple mapping. If you see, we have in the image at the lowest level, at the highest level, we have the high level design detail, which is a product. Drill down further, we have a mid-level details, which is the release, and ultimately at the lowest level, we have the sprint or the iteration. So if we talk about in Agile, we do things differently from traditional or the waterfall approach. So these are the left side, that is the HLD, MLD, and the LLD are the traditional Agile terminologies. And while gathering requirements in waterfall, the dependency or focus is only on one person generally, or a selected person in that particular team. But in Agile, we would have an involvement of many members of the team. So if we talk about the high level design is mapped with the theme as the prime head, which includes the vision, scope, and the roadmap for that particular product or the service. The middle level detail is mapped in Agile with feature, which is business value, and the priorities for that the customer. We have another component, epic, which is the logical grouping of the use cases, and ultimately the lowest level detail, which is LLD in traditional, is mapped with the user story in the Agile. So in a user story, user need based scenarios, acceptance criteria, and tasks. So user story we have already covered in our earlier module, module 5. So these are the mapping between the traditional requirements between the Agile requirements. So these, you can say the stages. So if you talk about broad level, we have 4 stages: theme, feature, epic, and user stories, the drill down mechanism for the Agile requirements. So at the lowest level, we have the user story. In next slide, I will talk about the requirement gathering methods. So gathering requirement, for that we might have many methods. So what exactly is the requirement gathering? So defining the product vision. you have a vision in your mind and you define that particular vision. Based on that, you do a brainstorming, might be interviewing, use cases, prototyping, and you do this. If you talk about in brief, it would be conduct market study, survey, brainstorming, formal focus groups, modeling, joint application design workshops. So on basis of this, you have a concrete or a kind of a definitive definition of product vision. That's the product vision is this. It's simple example. Suppose a new operator XYZ wants to establish their network in New Delhi, which is the capital of India. Might be you are aware, I'm sure. So the operator do some kind of a market study, which all are the existing operators in that particular geography, kind of a survey. Then they do some brainstorming among themselves. And finally, after some prototypes or modeling, they do have a vision that this product vision, that is, might be my new operator, that is XYZ operator, will definitely hit the market and we can have some segment of customers with us. So this is the product vision. The owner, the head or the head of the hierarchy have a vision in his mind for the product. So this is the product definition. Then we have the feature workshop, in which we use case diagrams, context diagrams, data modeling, logical diagram, just kind of a workshop between two us to identify the features. And finally, the sprint planning and the backlog grooming, in which we use the scenarios, user stories, workflow models, task flow models, whiteboarding, and flip charts. Again, these words are so simple, you can simply make it from their word itself, lexicon itself. So interviewing is the prime, which includes the questionnaire, then joint application development, which we discussed in product vision. It includes the hearing multiple perspectives, kind of you do the decision analysis and resolution, which is DAR in many of your projects might be. Then for particular decision, you have many alternatives, and out of certain alternatives, you choose one as your final alternative, which is your decision. So multiple perspectives. Then use case, that is kind of a storyboarding with the actors, and prototyping is kind of a modeling or a demonstration view of a real time, a kind of a demo version, prototyping. I have the same slide repeated, but with the definition, or you can say the method and the techniques. I have multiple techniques captured for you to make it better understand for the requirement gathering. One is observation, as the name suggests, it's observation. Unstructured interviews, unplanned face-to-face dialogues, which is then structured interviews. You kind of have a prepared set of questions with you and you do the sessions in a planned way to have the structured interviews. So for particular hiring, you might need to have the interviews in a structured fashion. Protocol analysis, that is stakeholders speak, he does the task. Then card sorting, which is kind of a gaming mechanism, which I had just shared in the previous module. Laddering, that is probe seed them, use answers to generate more items. Then repetitive grids, brainstorming, prototypes, scenario analysis, and finally the RAD, which is then prime component in the Agile, which is rapid application development workshops, which ultimately means integrates behavioral group dynamics within the structured environment using a facilitator to build consensus. So facilitator can be a Scrum Master or the Agile coach, which is playing the role of a servant leader. So have to build the consensus between the team to have a conclusion in the agreement. Let's talk about the focus groups. It's a new term in the Agile, but definitely it would help you understand much more in terms of Agile focus interviews. So focus groups were originally called focus interviews or group depth interviews. You do the brainstorming in the depth to reach a conclusion. The technique was developed after World War II to evaluate audience response to radio programs. So although I am not a good at historical information, but as per my few information which I fetched for this session before the session via Google, is that during the World War II, after that kind of a politicians or the group leaders generally have the mechanism to evaluate how the audience respond to their behavior on that particular move via radio program. So this is kind of an feedback mechanism is the right word if I talk about. So defined as a group of interacting individuals having some common interests or characteristics brought together by a moderator. So moderator is speaker or the agile coach or the scrum master in agile who uses the group and its interaction as a way to gain information about a specific or a focused issue. And this group typically includes 7 to 10 people who are unfamiliar with each other. This might be not possible every time, but try so that they are unfamiliar in terms of the topic at least in which they are discussing. So these participants are selected because they have certain characteristics in common that relate to the topic of the focus group. Conducting the focus group occurs in 3 phases, and the 3 phases are conceptualization, interview, and analyzing and reporting. So at the initial level, you do the conceptualization, which includes determining the purpose of that particular focus group or the meeting, then determining whom to study, what exactly is the topic or the subject for that particular study, then developing a plan and estimating needed resources, how much resources you would be needed, and what will be the plan and the estimating techniques you will be using with those resources to have the conceptualization phase completed, and finally specify the procedure, timeline, or the proposed budget for that particular activity. In the second phase, we have the interview in which we develop the questions, and finally we do the analysis and do the reporting. We have few types of focus groups. So one is single focus group, in which this is a classical focus group only. The second is two-way focus group. Each focus group alternatively watches the other group and discusses their observations. So what is the example? Suppose there are 2 teams, A and B, and A comprises of candidate A1 and A2, and team B has candidates B1 and B2. So suppose on a particular topic, team A is discussing among themselves, that is A1 and A2 are interacting, but team B is not keeping silent, or they are kind of an observing team A, and they do some kind of an alternative watch over to that particular group and reach to some conclusion. So although only actual 2 components, 2 people are involved, that is A1 and A2 in the discussion, but B1 and B2 also have their opinion for that particular team. So this is a two-way focus group. So that is 2 focus groups are involved on a one particular subject. And similarly, we repeat the cycle where B1 and B2 discusses and team A will observe their movements. Then dual moderator focus groups, one moderator leads the session and the other takes care of covering all topics and ensure relevant evolution in the discussion. This is kind of, although the dual moderator role can be played by the one moderator also, but definitely 2 modulator leads are definitely a good practice. Dueling moderator focus groups, that is 2 moderators take opposite positions, kind of you can see the pros and cons, or one is against and one is in favor. Then respondent moderator focus group, one of the respondents acts as the moderator temporarily. And second, we have other participants focus group, 1 or 2 or more of the client representatives participate in the discussion. Mini focus groups, groups of 4 or 5 members instead of 6 to 12. Teleconferencing, which is very much important nowadays in terms of a co-location, is not possible, so we have a distributed teams concept. So this can be done via the telephonic network or the VoIP or any mode of communication via electromagnetic radio waves. Then in the last, we have the online focus groups, again via chat rooms, or you do ultimately the online mechanism to do the focus groups. So these are some type of the focus groups. So at the broader level, if you talk about the advantages and disadvantages for focus group, on advantages side, definitely we can see the facial expression and body languages, so it is a better expression. Expressions are always better in discussions. We can hear the social cues and languages expression, provide insight of the most appropriate way to talk about products, services and brands. But you have few disadvantages also, which is small, non-repetitive samples, results are not projectable many times, not always, artificial environment, lack of anonymity, because everyone can see and everyone can identify each other who have their vision on that particular discussion, so there is no anonymity. In white band Delphi technique in estimation earlier, which we have discussed in previous module, we have an anonymity in that, because you can put your cards on the wall, or you can showcase, or you can just speak the number without showing your face. And finally, the potential bias results due to group influence. So it's kind of a group influence. Suppose one is the leader and the three, suppose in a group there is a manager and there are three, one is a senior member and two are junior, so definitely the two members probably will move with the flow of the senior member. So this is kind of an group influence of that particular individual. So this is a kind of a biased opinion. This is one of the very big disadvantages of focus groups. Group decision making. So what exactly is the group decision making, which is also known as the collaborative decision making, is a situation faced when individuals collectively make a choice from the alternatives before them. So you have many alternatives between you, and you finally choose one alternative as your agreement among the team or the members who all the collective ownership, you can say the collective agreement, sorry, not the ownership, collective agreement. So the style of group decision making, one is command, that is one leader are responsible for making the decision. Then majority rule, majority votes make the decision, example 6 out of 10, which is majority decision making methods. And finally we have consensus, that is decision require general alignment of all stakeholders. This may not necessarily be yes or no, but you can say an unanimous vote. So if you see, instead of see below, please see left. So consensus, majority rule and command are the prime styles of group decision making. And if you see the decision making methods, that is the kind of a strength. So on a command side we have the lowest strength and longevity for solution, but in consensus, which is agreement, is high. So definitely consensus, that is the agreement based, is the best choice for group decision making. On if you see about the speed or the efficiency for these three styles, definitely consensus, which is agreement, is a group task, so it will take more time, which is low, and definitely the command, which involves only one leader, will take lesser time, which is on a higher note. So speed is high for command, and definitely speed is low for the consensus one. Agile product roadmap is our next slide, in which we have the agile product roadmap. What exactly is the roadmap we have discussed in our earlier modules, but to give a quick glimpse, we have a company vision, then we have the product vision, release vision, product backlog, and finally the sprint backlog. So this is kind of a roadmap. So you need to remember these sequence, because it will help you a lot while understanding many of the questions and many of the subsequent topics we will be discussing further. So company vision is the first one, then we have the product vision. Definitely we have a company first. Suppose a person owns or creates a company, so he has a vision. So what is the vision of the company? That he wants to make money, he wants to create a brand. The second one, he has a product vision. So to create money or to make money or to create a brand, he needs to definitely have a product with him. So he will have a product, and for that product he needs a vision again. So product vision. To implement that, he needs some plan, which is a release plan. The release can be split further into product backlog, and finally the sprint backlog. These are the terms as per the agile methodological world. So product vision, we have a vision, we do some analysis, and we finally create a product backlog. So vision statement is crispy summary of the vision or an idea. The target group, who all, which market segment does the product address, who are the largest or the target users and customers. Then finally the purpose, the need, which needs does the product fulfill. So if you are a telecom operator entering into the new market, so what will the needs? That will you will the fulfillment, assurance and billing. You provide the customer with a good network with the services of voice, SMS, data. So that is the purpose, that is the need. Product, again the product and needs are kind of an interrelated as suggested by the name, or you can make it very clear with the diagram itself. Then we have the value. So these are the components which are involved in the product vision. So vision, we have a vision board which includes the vision and the product strategy. And finally, which leads to the product backlog. That includes the detailed stories or the user interfaces design. Release plan is a roadmap that displays how an agile team is looking forward to achieve the end of the project. So we do the planning in releases. So release 1 will incorporate these kind of changes, release 2 will have these kind of services or a product, and so on. So goal of release planning meeting is to create release plan. And what exactly is this? During this release planning you do all user stories estimated, prioritized, and assigned to specific release. So suppose you have a 10 user stories, you decide that out of 2 releases, you do the first 5 in the release 1 and the next from 6 to 10 in the release 2. So this is kind of a release planning at the broader level to make you explain what exactly is the release planning. So release plan might be have iteration 1, iteration 2, 3, and so on. So in many cases, just few releases planned ahead and other user stories put into backlog. So it's not necessary that you do all the product backlog user stories in all the releases. Maybe at the iteration 4 or 7, your customers say that the last 5 user stories are not important, so you can skip it. You don't need to have to deliver that particular user story. So this is what all about we have for the release plan. Product backlog, though we have discussed it many times, but let's discuss it quickly in a quick view. So we have all the requirements in one place, in a stacked fashion. So in release 1, so at the highest priority items are at the top and the low priority items are at the bottom. So if you can see, the dark blue ones are the high priority and the light blue ones are the lowest priority. So definitely release 1 will include the high priority items, release 2 will have the much higher the slightly lower higher priority items, and ultimately release 3 will include the low priority items. So this is kind of a release planning, and if we magnify the release 1, then definitely release 1 will include the iteration 1, and the product backlog will include feature 1, 2, 4, and subsequently we have release 2 until iteration n. And iteration backlog, if we again magnify the view of the iteration, then we have the iteration 1, in which we have the feature 1 and feature 2, and feature 1 will include the user stories and ultimately finally the tasks. So this is the magnified view of the product backlog for your better understanding. Next comes the sprint backlog, which is another name is iteration backlog. So the iteration backlog or the sprint backlog is the list of work the development team must address during the next sprint. The list is derived by selecting product backlog items from the top of the product backlog until the development team feels it is enough work to fill the sprint. So it's the ownership of the development team only to have the sprint backlog, that which all components they want to deliver in that particular sprint. It's the sole decision of the development team as a whole. So if you see the diagram, we have a good big product backlog matrix. So out of that, we have chosen only the down right, that is the yellow one for 3 into 4 matrix block. So which is the sprint backlog. You do the sprint planning, in which we have the sprint of 4 weeks. We do the sprint burn down, daily meetings, 15-minute scrum meetings, and finally we do the release, in which we have the sprint. After that, we have the sprint review meetings, and subsequently after that we have the retrospective one, and we do the same cycle on a repeated basis. So this is one snapshot of the sprint backlog. Then we have the agile modeling. If we talk about the agile modeling, is a methodology for modeling and documenting software system based on best practices. So it works on the 4 prime agile values. One is simplicity, feedback, courage, and communication. So it is a collection of values and agile principles, which we have discussed in, if you remember, in module 2, what is agile manifestos and agile values, agile principles. So that can be applied on an agile software development project. This methodology is more flexible than traditional because it includes big four values, that is simplicity, feedback, courage and communication, which is definitely good for the fast changing environment. So we are adhering to the adaptive. Next term would be the prototypes. As the name suggests, prototype is a demonstration or a demo. So prototyping is the activity of creating prototypes of software applications. Here we are just taking the example for the software. So that is incomplete version of the software program being developed. It is an activity that can occur in software development and is comparable to prototyping as known for other fields such as mechanical engineering or manufacturing also. Definitely prototyping is not limited to the software world. We can have the prototype for the mechanical. We do have the prototype for a big car or a big industry. So these kind of a prototypes. So prototype typically simulates only a few aspects of or maybe completely different from the final product. So there are certain type of prototypes also. One is concept prototype, feasibility prototype, horizontal prototype, vertical prototype and functional storyboarding. So let's quickly look them into detail. So the typical purpose is for the concept prototype, analyze system approaches, general characteristics, high level, overall vision, and when to use, concept definition stage. So at the very early stage of the project. So concept prototype. Feasibility prototype, you are doing the feasibility analysis. So again the purpose, characteristics and when to use, determine feasibility of various solutions. You do the feasibility analysis on various parameters, proof of concept, that is POC for specific issues, and concept definition stage. Similarly for horizontal prototype, we have a clarify scope and requirements and finally leading to functional definition stage. So and vertical prototype, we use them at the later portion of functional definition stage, and functional storyboarding we generally do at the functional definition stage. The next slide I have for you is the wireframes. This is you will definitely find at least 2 to 3 questions in your Agile examination related to wireframes. So a wireframe is a visual guide. That is, if you can see from the image, it is a visual guide that portrays how a page or a screen of a website or a system may look. So kind of a dummy wireframe diagram of your website. Suppose you are creating a job portal, so you have 4 wireframe diagrams. Just to make you understand that at the very first page you have a wireframe of the login screen in which you put your credentials and the passwords and or maybe as a guest user. And so suppose you logged in, then definitely you will move to the next wireframe, which is your login screen page, the profile page in which you have your CV with you. In the third page you click on the relevant jobs for you, and finally you apply and can see the workflow of that particular job. So this is the kind of a flow diagram or the wireframe diagram. So wireframe can range from very unfinished and sketchy in appearance to very polished looking and reflection of how the system will look at 100% completion. So this is kind of it's one type of a prototyping, a demonstration of your product or a service via wireframes. So using wireframes can help in determining, these are the few of the advantages of wireframes, the structure of a page or screen, the layout of content. You can easily have a look at the layout and you can feel the sense the website, how it will look in future. The functionality available, which is missing or not. You can able to make calls to action, blocks of text, user interface elements, and finally graphic design touches also, where you want the image to be reflected or not, and how the screen will look like and other stuff. So this is all I have for today. But before that, let's talk about personas also. So personas it's a fictional character that represent a subset of the market we want to address. So what exactly is the persona? Persona is a picture or a name given to a person, then we have the details for that person, and finally the goal. Suppose as the user, suppose I am the admin of that particular job website. So as an admin, so my name is Vinayak. So I have my picture and name with me as a persona. Then details. My role is, suppose I am the site admin who tracks some reports. And my goal, example, my goal is to fetch the daily reports, how much people have applied to that particular job and which are the new jobs in the market, who have joined our website on a the new login users of our website. So this is my goal. So as Vinayak, my role is admin, and what is my goal? To collate and analyze the data. So a person typically has a name, a picture, relevant characteristics such as an age or income group, behavioral trait, common tasks, and a goal that describes the problem the persona wants to see solved or the benefit the character wants to achieve. This information is traditionally based on direct observation, interviews, and other brainstorming or the qualitative market research mechanisms. Persona should help us develop sympathy for our users and customers. So this is, you can say, the example is the development team or the users can able to relate to that persona. Example, they are creating some website, or they are creating the developing that particular component. So they can imagine that this person will be ultimately using this service. So what will be his reaction to that particular click? How he feels, what exactly he wants, his needs, his desires. So in his details, what is his age, his profession. So all these parameters clubbed together is the definition of a persona. So you need to keep in mind, as a development team, you just focus on a persona in terms of his name, age, profession, his details, his goal, and put all these user-centric approach in a one common center, and then do your development. So to putting the user first and then building a product that does definitely a great job for the users by meeting the goals of the personas. So that's all for from myself in bucket of me from today. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Wish you very best of luck. Bye bye.